Hello, everyone. Welcome to Girl Meets Rugby. My name is Christina Lanham, and we are at episode 16. This week, we're going to be talking about the U.S. Eagles and how they're performing in their summer test matches. We're going to be looking back at the MLR for the 2025 season. What was good? What was not so good? What was kind of terrible? But let's give an honest review, shall we? But before we do all of that, let's jump off into the news. All right, in the news, we have got the British and Irish Lions tour is currently ongoing. Uh, as when I was writing up my notes, they have won 5 of their 6 matches. So that initial match against Argentina, where they lost, they have since then been able to win every single match. So really strong tour for the British and Irish Lions so far. And I believe the Rugby Rant is going to be coming out with a little bit more of a detail of how that tour is going. So, something maybe to check out on their channel. We've got some announcements of match officials for the Women's Rugby World Cup, which, just a reminder, that is starting in just a little over a month. Will be held in England. And if you're in the US, it will be watchable on Paramount Plus. But with the match official appointments, we have Precious Bazani, who is the first African female outside of South Africa to be a assistant ref. We have Natasha Ganley from New Zealand, Ella Goldsmith from Australia, Kat Roach from the US are all making their Rugby World Cup debuts. So, congratulations to all of those folks. Very excited to see them out there. Really excited to see both Kat Roach and Amelia, who often serve as refs in the MLR, getting their chance to get their feet wet in some really awesome high profile international matches. Wales. Good news for Wales. Who knew it could happen? They break their 18-game losing streak with a win against Japan. So, congratulations to them. Hopefully, it's the start of some new momentum for that team. It's obviously been a, a while since they have won a match. And so, very exciting to see that they have officially broken their losing streak and they have something really positive to look on. And then, also in positive news, Ilona Maher, uh, just this week, was awarded Breakthrough Athlete at the ESPYs. Now, Breakthrough Athlete is someone who has been in an international played sport or with a team, typically their rookie year, who's immediately made great strides or become really well known, well respected. And really for Alona, this is with her Bristol Bears debut this year. If you don't remember the impact that she had, uh, match attendance increased 103% with her presence. Social media following increased 300%. They had record-breaking attendance for the PWR in general, with 9,240 people in attendance. And so she made a very positive impact on the sport of rugby, specifically in women's rugby, and really specifically for the Bristol Bears. Them signing her on had massive impact in opening up their market to new fans who have seen Alona from her social media, maybe saw her from the Olympics, saw her from Dancing with the Stars, but they came to the games and I saw post after post of people just stating they came for Alona, but they stayed for the rugby. And that's what we want. We need people who are willing to put themselves out there, who are willing to make themselves a brand. We need people to help elevate that, and Alona has certainly done that for rugby, and I'm really looking forward to what she will continue to do. Even in her acceptance speech, she put the plug out there, "There's a Women's Rugby World Cup happening next month. You should check it out." And so, I agree with her on that. So, congratulations to Alona on a well-deserved award. That is everything we have in the news. We're gonna jump over into the US Eagles. Normally, they're kinda in the news segment, but I'm breaking it out for at least the summer while they've got some test matches and there's some more things to talk about with them. So yeah, a little patriotic. But I mean, when we're talking about the US Eagles, I feel like patriotism is an appropriate style to go with. So in the Eagles, men's 15s played Spain. So this was the match. This is their second test match that they were having in Charlotte. This is the one where I was like, this is definitely going to be a greater challenge than Belgium. In world rankings at the time, we were ranked 15th. Spain is ranked 16th. So we're right neck and neck. So was a really evenly matched game. There was a 2-hour weather delay. We had just a rash of thunderstorms and flooding throughout the US. And so unfortunately, Charlotte was not immune to that. And so the game, which was supposed to start, I think, at about 8:30 Central for me, or 6:30 Central for me, started about 8:30 Central PM, but it was significant delay. I don't know if that had an impact on the US players. They definitely struggled, just going through and watching the game a second time. Uh, there was a lot of ball handling errors right out of the gate. The first 27 minutes, it was all Spain. I think they had already gotten up to 21 points, but within that 27-minute mark, and I was like, oh, this is looking like it's going to be a blowaway. Now, US was able to come back, and in the last 10 minutes before going into halftime, they were able to secure 14 points. So we went into the sheds 14-21. So we were able to kind of get things back together, but there was just issues in our set pieces, lineouts, ball handling. Like I said, just a lot of issues that we were having there. In the second half, Spain was able to kind of turn out really quick, score again, and then we had a few succession of tries, and it got to 2021. And then unfortunately, Spain was able to get away and be able to score as well as with a penalty kick. And the game ended out USA 20, Spain 31. So it was a well deserved win on the Spain side. I think they played really well. We had moments where we were really together and we had moments where we were really struggling. And so um, definitely some work to be done. You're not going to win every single game. It wasn't a terrible loss. It started that way. It looked like we were going to lose significantly, and then we were able to kind of get ourselves back into the game, which was positive. But yeah, definitely some work for the men's Eagles to do. They are going to be playing England in DC, and that's going to be in just a few days' time. That's going to be the doubleheader where the women's Eagles are going to be playing Fiji. So that's definitely something to check out. All of these matches are available in the US on Paramount Plus. So please do check them out and support our teams. I foresee the England match not going well. They are obviously a tier one team. We're more of a tier two team. But you need to play those higher level teams. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. But you need to play teams that are better than you. You need to see the pace of play. You need to experience those hits. And that helps you improve to get to the next level. If you're only playing teams that are at your level or lower, you're never going to really progress up. So, uh, even though it might be a rough match to watch, I think it's a lot to learn from playing in the England match, and who knows? England considers it a heat wave when it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and we know in the US that's a nice spring day right there, so, we may have some temperatures on our side that might help us out. But we did have a couple of Eagle debuts with the Spain match. So Tom Pittman and Christian Poidevin both made their Eagle debut, earning their first caps. And then if we look over into the men's under 19s, 15s, They won in the Rugby Americas North, which consists of, let me make sure I've got my list here correctly, the US, Bermuda, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Mexico, and Trinidad and Tobago. So they got a straight win, no losses. So congratulations to men's under 19. Obviously, these are players in these next groups I'll be talking about that we really want to keep our eye on as we look closer towards 2031 for the Rugby World Cup in the US. These are really the players who are going to be in their prime at that point. So I'm excited just as I talk about the different teams here, the under 19s, under 18s, under 23s, just that we are getting them some international reps. And so I think that's really helpful. The men's under 18s, 15 for men, is on a South America tour at the moment. So they had, let's see, they've played Uruguay, West Buenos Aires, and Rosario Academy. I believe they lost to Uruguay 12-31. Buenos Aires was a win 63-7. And then Rosario Academy was a win 71-40. But I love that they're getting an opportunity to travel internationally, getting a chance to play some players with a different style of play as well. So I think that's just a real positive there. And then men's under 23 for 15s, they're on their South Africa tour. And so they have played two games that I've been able to take note of thus far. There was I don't know if it's Maties or Maddie's uh, marketer was 85-15 in favor of the US. And then there was the Boland Cavs, which we won 57-26. But it's great to see our teams at least getting out there, getting some international exposure, seeing different styles of play around the world. I think that's always going to be a positive for us. But yeah, that's everything that's happening with the US Eagles right now. We'll definitely have more coming as the summer progresses, and then also just looking into the fall when we get into the Pacific Nations Cup and such. But with that, we'll kind of jump over into the main part of our session, which is going to be talking the MLR and how things went for the 2025 season. All right. Before we kick off with a complete review, we do have a couple of departures to announce. For the NOLA Gold, Pat O'Toole has announced his retirement. So we thank Pat O'Toole for his many years in the MLR and everything that he has done and provided for on the NOLA Gold team. And then, based on his social media, Sam Hill is calling it a day with the Houston SaberCats and moving on to other opportunities within the rugby world. Sam was with the SaberCats, I believe, for 2 years. So it was great to have him as part of the team and definitely wishing him the best in his future endeavors. It looks like it's probably going to be something back over across the pond for him, but we'll have to wait and see. And we'll definitely have way more of those coming for retirements and transfers and things of that nature as we progress towards 2026. Now let's talk 2025 MLR. What was great about 2025? One, we didn't have any weird schedule changes right before the season started, which was great. That happened last year. It was a bit of a challenge last year for me because I had bought plane tickets for one location that then we weren't playing at anymore. So I had to move things around. So I was really excited. We didn't have any last minute um, schedule changes in terms of the large schedule. I think we did have one or two games where I think the day had to shift due to some other issues, some weather, which was in the playoffs. And then I think there was some venue issues where one or two matches had to switch. But in general, we came out with a schedule and we basically stuck with that schedule. So I did like that. Parity in the league. We had a very competitive season on both sides. We had obviously various people hitting at different points in the top. There was a point where we all wrote the New England Free Jacks off, that they weren't going to be able to even compete for the Shield this year. Uh, shame on us, I suppose. Um, but, there was a lot of really great matches. Most teams, were within 5 to 10 points, which means any given couple of weeks, you could see some major shifts. So, the one exception being Anthem, which we will talk about them in a little bit. But in general, I thought parity was very good between both conferences, within each conference. Matches week to week were excellent to watch. The playoffs were competitive. The final was competitive. And that's what you want to see. You want to see good rugby. It's great to have a runaway when it's your team that's winning, but it's not exactly exciting. Um, so I'm glad to see that we had some really good matches this year, and I think that was a really great positive. Things maybe not so great. I think just in terms of announcements from the MLR, I just don't know that we had as good of timing. This has come up before. There was obviously a number of factors into where they were selecting for the MLR final. Uh, the facility only opened the month of the final itself. So there was a delay in that. It was like a month later, which certainly impacts people who are trying to make plans, trying to budget to be able to travel and go to the final. I myself I knew it wasn't going to be in my budget, unfortunately, even though I did try to look last minute when the Sabercats actually made it. Because I really wanted to go, but there was just no way I was going to be able to afford a flight out to Rhode Island, in addition to hotel stays and such. But I just feel like announcement wise, that probably wasn't the most timely. There's definitely been others that have talked about this as well, in different podcasts and such, so probably beating a dead horse at this point, but the earlier the better. People do wanna be able to plan, people do want to really, be able to make a weekend of it. One of the thoughts I had was just, I think it was on the Rugby Rant podcast, they were talking about how the final went, and they were just like, "It'd be cool to, like, have it at TCO Stadium in Eagan, Minnesota, which is the practice field for the Vikings, also where the WER held the Legacy Cup." And I was like, it'd be kind of cool as we try to raise the bar for men and women's professional rugby. If we had like a weekend where it was like the men's sheet championship for the Shield, the women's championship for the Legacy Cup. You did like a Saturday, Sunday, and it was a full rugby weekend. I just think in general that would be kind of cool. Obviously, we don't have the same media partners and things of that nature, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of politics that go into that. But just saying, you want to get a rugby weekend going, have your back-to-back championships in one place. Um, Definitely would probably get increased attendance just across both groups because of that. But yeah, I mean, in general, things were good. There was some really great social media, I think, from a number of teams, and I think that was great. Opportunities to like share out fun little reels and things, and just attract viewers. As you've seen, where we were talking about Alona Mar earlier, you know, social media following does help. Uh, Alona has a lot of followers. People are really interested in what she has to say. She starts playing for the Bristol Bears. They're like, "Cool, I wanna check out the Bristol Bears." There's nothing wrong with having someone that has a personality that wants to put themselves out there, that then also directs some of that focus back to rugby. So, again, there was definitely some really good social media posts out there. Think in the do better, still people need to work on their websites. Seriously, people need information. Update your websites. Things that I didn't think were too great, was the storm week, and this is my reasoning. It wasn't super equitable across all teams. Um, you know, those that did have significantly compressed schedules were at about a 60% loss rate in those storm weeks. So 60% of the time they lost. New England are one exception, won all three of their matches. And then San Diego was the second best, where they won 2 out of 3. But for Anthem, it was kind of the start of their major downslide. It was a massive impact on Utah. Um, and so, yeah, it just there were teams that had a bunch of games, and there were some that maybe had one. The Houston SaberCats, really their compressed week was right at the end, when they had to go and play Chicago. And then technically they had a little bit of a compressed one because when they were doing their playoff with LA, it got delayed by weather. But that's neither here nor there, I think, on that one. But it just, if we're going to do storm weeks, it should be, if we're going to put some teams at a disadvantage, we should put all teams at a disadvantage. It just doesn't seem fair that some, you know, had to have these really compressed schedules where it really did reflect in the scores that they were getting, and then other teams did not. So either we need to start the season a bit earlier, so that way we can continue with our test window, or we need to figure out a different way to manage storm weeks. But I wasn't a fan just in general, looking back at the numbers and, like, in talking about Anthem, obviously, I think probably the worst thing out of the season is just that Anthem was scoreless for another season in a row. And they started out, I mean, pretty strong. I mean, there was several matches that had their kicking game been on point, they would have won those matches. They were within 1 point of Houston. But once they entered those storm weeks, you really started to see an exponential increase in the point differential between them and the teams they played. And I don't know if it was a case of, you know, there was players getting injured, or they were just running out of steam. I don't know what was going on, but it just seems like right at that storm week, things started to go downhill for them, and it never really recovered. And so I just, I would like to see I'd like to see them get a win next year. I think just for the morale of the team, you need that. For the morale of the fans, I know a lot of the fans in the Charlotte area understand what the purpose of that team is, but you also want to see your team succeed. And so, um, 2 winless seasons is rough. So I'm really hoping that they're going to be able to turn things around and get some major improvements for 2026. And then I think the other thing that just I mentioned this a little bit before, like with MLR announcements, but just like MLR corporate presence. I just would like to see more. I'd like to hear more from MLR on how things are going. What are our stats? How are we progressing? And because when you hear nothing, you're just assuming like, well, the news must be bad. So therefore, we're just not going to say anything and pretend it's not there. But I'd rather hear what's good, what's not good, where do we want to grow, all of those things. I would just love to hear more from the MLR about that. And I just don't know that we're going to get it. But I would love to get it because if there's like, hey, we really want to focus on growing in this particular market and things like fans could get behind that and be like, we want to help you grow there, but we don't really know what it is they're wanting to do. So yeah, I just think there's some work that could be done there. I mean, even with the MLR draft, I know that's coming up next month. There was some announcements, kind of when people could sign up for the draft. I haven't really heard much since. Now, obviously, we were kind of working up to the Shield and all of that for the championship, which is great. You want to have your focus on that. That's over now. And so essentially, MLR is done. The next big MLR event is the draft. I'd like to see more information about that. I'd like to hear more about, just getting some hype around it. And so, yeah, and I will say for the 2025 season, I know it was in 2024, but I felt like the draft show was a bit of a disappointment. Like before we'd had some people in person, there was some, you know, different little things you got to see there. And then it just felt like a big Zoom meeting for this past one. They had Mike Petrie, which no shade to Mike. He did the best he could with what he had, but it wasn't a very exciting draft. And I'm not asking for fireworks and, you know, mega superstars and all those kinds of things to be dropping from the ceiling, but it felt like a massive downgrade, and I would love to see a little more panache with this season's draft. So, we'll see what happens. I don't know. Got a few weeks still until that's gonna roll out. But, yeah, I think those are probably my biggest pet peeves. I think probably unluckiest team in the league apart from Anthem, has to be LA. They had 2 blackouts and weather delays and everything else. I mean, they definitely had, some things stacked against them for different matches that they were at, but their social media team was really on it, and just they ran with the bad luck, and they're just like, "Man, the power's out again. Who's paying the power bill?" It was great. I loved the way that their social media team handled it. It was exactly what they needed to do. But yeah, it's 2025 was overall, I think, a success. I think we had some great rugby. I think we're progressing as a league. And I'm looking forward to 2026. I'm hoping again, just seeing some things change a little bit, a little bit more MLR communication, a little bit more of the MLR presence. What are we looking to? Where do we want to go? Um, it's not just on the investor side. The fan base wants to know, and then I think, you know, Anthem, get a win and get a win. But that's everything I have this week. I'll be trying to catch out the USA matches for the men's and the women's in the next week and just gathering more information. So it'll probably be another 2-week block before I report out again. And then we'll look at going into Women's Rugby World Cup in August. So we'll definitely be talking through that when that comes around. But until then, I wish you guys the best. This has been Girl Meets Rugby, and you guys have a great day.